Hello, everyone. How are you today? Today, I'm going to be talking about materials analysis and design, or materials design analysis and redesign. I'm going to be sharing something special today because I'm going to be sharing my final project. As you may know, I have just completed my master's degree in linguistics, and this is what I did for the final project. There is a written version. This is, the oral presentation. So it's just a summary. But if you want to have the written version with a sample plan with all of the activities and the changes, then reach out to me and I can send them to you. So I'm going to be talking about the importance of a goal-based lesson plan for future analysis and improvement of a communicative material design in the EFL classroom. Welcome again. I am Gabi Torjani, ESL specialist and consultant. I am founder and director of TCLS. I am tutor for Bridges Teaching English Online as a freelancer and for some other courses as well. And well, I am a student. Well, I have just completed the master's degree, but I'm always a student. Let me share the structure of the oral presentation. When I presented, I talked about the topic. I shared something about my story or my background. Now we're going to be talking about the introduction. I'm going to share a summary of the plan, a sample plan. Then we're going to talk about the objectives of the final project and of the plan as well. I'm going to talk about the subtopics I dealt with. I'm going to talk about the methodology or the research itself. Then I'm going to share some results and limitations to the project. Of course, I'm going to share the main changes of the plan, and I'm going to offer some tips and share a conclusion at the end. So materials, as I said before, I'm going to be talking about materials design and redesign. So I think that materials should contribute to language learning, as we all know, have a communicative purpose, engage students, demonstrate clear objectives. To serve this purpose, I think a goal-based lesson plan will be key to an effective lesson, empower and motivate students, help teachers reflect on their work, help teachers adapt materials and change, and help students and teachers assess everything. As for the plan I created, well, the plan I used was a tailor-made plan adapted for a B1 level. And why do I say adapted? Because the first time I used this plan or the moment I created the plan, it was to work with teachers to trainees, because I work with trainees, sorry, because I wanted to show teachers how to work with the communicative language teaching approach. So it had like a different focus. I saved the plan and then I adapted the plan to work with a B1 level with teenagers. And this plan in the final project was included in section 3 and the approved version with its changes in section 6. The topic of the plan was relationships, the subject, question tags. The focus was on phonology, more specifically on British English, because the students that I worked with wanted to work on British English. They had an American accent. This is another story. They wanted to reduce the accent and work more in British English, learn more about this type of English. The approaches I used were communicative language teaching approach and task-based learning. The skills I worked with were speaking, writing, reading, listening, and the focus was in speaking. Some of the new resources I worked with were artificial intelligence, different apps, conversation apps, and Chat GPT. The new task that was highlighted in a way was a task or an activity to work with conversation partners. Lots of new guidelines and tips for sure. So, well, we were talking about lesson planning, and I believe that a plan will always aid our performance. The plan I created will reflect my style and my teacher thinking and the way I normally work. As for the personal aims, and I'm talking about the final project in general, I shared, I wanted to share my work and passion for teaching. I wanted with this final project, I wanted to, with this plan, I wanted to help teachers with lesson planning, to set examples and inspire teachers, to encourage a reflective attitude, to innovate, to stay open to feedback, to keep up the professional development and to evolve. So this was what I wanted to achieve or to share with the teachers and with the students as well. So the main work was to design and redesign my own lesson plan. The main objective of the final project was to show how a plan can help us improve. So we need to have like a written version of what we tend to plan, because if not, we tend to forget. The tasks I carried out were reflection and self-assessment, refocus on objectives and interests, and I'm talking about students' interests and needs, and collection of feedback. Again, remember that I worked with a B1 level and with teenagers. Some of the topics that had been discussed in the final project and some of the areas or subtopics I worked with were materials design, methods, communicative language teaching approach, goal setting, and coaching. I think the goal setting in the classroom is key, and well, coaching as well. So we need to coach our students in order to work with different goals or to learn about different interests and goals. I also talked about phonology, a topic we teachers tend to avoid. I talked about self-reflection and assessment, about peer feedback, about collaborative work, and then all of the related subtopics, such as professional development and lifelong learning, motivation. I also talked about different levels and about innovation and technology. I think I innovated with this project because I carried out a self-reflective attitude. Something is very hard to, to maintain in a way. But I also innovated because I worked with, at the very end of the project, with even more technology. Again, tailor-made plan using or reflecting the communicative language teaching approach and the task-based learning for different audiences. Sorry, cannot speak this time of the year. But we're going to focus on the context I already mentioned, B1 level, teenagers. I carried out a classroom-oriented research. This is to say that I reflected on my own work. I also collected feedback. I carried out some interviews, and I'm talking about students' interviews and teachers' interviews. I experimented with teachers. I had teachers use my plan. I observed teachers and I collected feedback as well. Well, this is just a reminder, context B1 level, teenagers wanted to learn about British English and they had, well, if you read my plan, you will see that they had an American accent. They graduated in a way from an American school. And so they wanted to learn more about British English. The main adaptation was under phonology, and I worked a lot with artificial intelligence. Again, this was something I decided to do at the very end of the final project. Well, here's some of the results, some of the findings, or some of the things that I can share after working on my project. There is always room for improvement. I think that we as teachers should always save our plans or our work. And after a lesson, after a plan, we should reflect on that work and see different ways of improving, of changing. Changes were added and highlighted in my own work. A guide for teachers was provided. Tips for teachers and students were offered. Self-reflection proved to be a challenge. one more time. I mean, I'm very used to reflecting. I love reflecting, and I suggest reflecting on our own work, but it's always very hard. Phonology seems to be an area to be worked on. I still believe we teachers need to keep on working on phonology. Limitations will always arise, but we need to learn how to deal with those limitations. Creativity and communication should prevail, regardless of the topic we are working on with. Some a list of apps were shared. A list of apps was shared with different sites and different recommendations. I also added some further practice, and one of the alternative results, and you will see why if you read my final project, was the use of Chat GPT when working on British English. The students I worked with wanted to work on speaking mainly. So with ChatGPT, you will see you will have some restrictions or you will find some limitations. But the students were able to work on writing, on spelling, um, on different things, but still on the British English. British English, sorry. So some of the main changes that you will find in section 6 with the new plan, the adapted plan, are the following. Students were assigned a conversation partner, native speaker located in a school in the UK. And this was like the innovative task that I added. I also added some homework or home fun. And the students were responsible for learning, for their own learning. I added extra homework, further practice and homework because I wanted to encourage independent work. And because of a question of time, but mainly because I wanted students to work independently. I also added some more technology in a way, use of technology. There was lots of language exchange. The focus was in phonology, British English, and on the task, and not on the communicative language teaching approach. I think I mentioned this before. The first time I worked with this plan was with Teachers to Be, and the focus was on the approach because I wanted the teachers to see how I worked with the communicative language teaching approach. But then in this case, the focus changed because the focus was on phonology and because I worked with teenagers and not with Teachers to Be. The focus or refocus was on goals, students' goals. I had to reflect on my own work and on my own plan. And I had to go back and consider students' real goals and objectives to add more materials and to work more with different activities. So I carried more self-assessment, an innovative practice. I challenged everyone and myself as well. I encouraged independent and collaborative work, and I shared some guidelines for teachers and students to work with a reflective attitude all throughout, to reflect on their own work, to reconsider their own objectives, and to work with more technology. Okay, here I am offering different tips and I'm sharing some of the conclusions. A change, regardless of the change, is an innovation. It could be a change of activity, it could be a change related to objectives, to an approach. A change is an innovation. Self-reflection is the innovative practice, and at least here in my project, This is just a tip. Stay open and you will find new ways. Motivation is key to innovation, so try to stay motivated. Peer feedback is always necessary and should always be should be welcome. Do not fear phonology. Investigate. Keep on learning about phonology. Overcome limitations with attitude. Do not be afraid. Keep on learning. Keep on evolving. Keep on investigating and reflecting on your own work. Embrace technology and networking with the use of conversation partners in another country. We were able to network a lot. Play with artificial intelligence, play around, play with ChatGPT, learn more, stay open to embrace technology, stay open to change, try to evolve, try to become better teachers, become a lifelong learner, and remember that we are better together. So it's great to reflect on one's work, but it's always good to share our work, um, to have some other teachers observe and to receive feedback from other teachers. So